What is up, YouTube? What is up, family? We have another Patreon request. We got Minitel, France's alternate internet that survived into 2012. Oh, that's not that long ago. 12 years ago. You guys had your own internet? Minitel. Sounds like Mattel. We have toys that are made by Mattel. You guys got internet that's made from Minitel. That's interesting. Okay, anyway, let's go.
Have you ever been surfing the internet, checking out the latest apology on Instagram or SEC violation on Twitter or flawless new live-action travel competition channel on YouTube that could really use some more subscribers, and you find yourself thinking, gee, the internet's great, but there's only one of it. I wish there was an alternate version of the internet, and I wish it was French and it was started in 1978 and it was called Minitel. Well then, boy, do I have good news for you. In 1978, France created an alternate version of the internet, and it was called Minitel.
Oh.
It all started when two nerds wrote a nerd paper called The Computerization of Society, except really it was called L'informatisation de la Société because these nerds, it just so happened, were French. The report was presented to French President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing on one of his rare breaks from the traditional French president duties of having affairs while balding, and it basically said that telecommunications would soon be transformed by a strange and mystical device called a computer, and that if France could get ahead of the trend, they could go from having what was, at the time, the worst telecommunications network in the industrialized world to having the opposite of worst one. And so, French politicians decided to do three things that politicians almost never do.
Tell the truth?
Listen to experts, plan ahead, and then actually do a thing that was useful to people. And that thing was called Minitel. Basically, Minitel was a series of computer terminals with a screen and keyboard in the AZERTY configuration that were hooked up to a public data network called Transpac, which would connect them to servers, allowing them to exchange data in the X.25 network protocol. And terminals were available free of charge to anyone in France with a phone line. That's because the whole system was designed and executed by PTT, France's state-run telecommunications network, and was essentially envisioned as an expansion pack to your phone. Instead of only typing numbers and hearing stuff, you could now type letters and see stuff, which, though it sounds simple, was a huge deal, or as the French call it, un deal enormous. For a country so prone to overthinking that they did 3 consecutive revolutions, the French developed a surprisingly simple system for Minitel. Users would start by dialing a 4-digit code on their phones. The code started at 3611, and any code above 3615 cost money per minute to use, and then, once connected to a server, you would enter a string of letters to indicate what service you wanted. Basically, it was like a URL, except if you wanted to read Le Monde instead of going to www.
Le Monde. Le Monde, idiot.
www.lemonde.com, you typed 3615 Le Monde. Minitel's first service was a simple electronic phone book, but thanks to the fast-growing user base, by the early 90s, there were over 10,000 services offered on Minitel.
This sounds like dial-up. You know what I mean? We had internet in the very, very beginning. Actually, before the internet, I used to play this game called, it was made by a company called Sierra. Sierra. And you could play cards and games and backgammon and like all kinds of like table games that you could play with your family. You know, you could play hearts, you could play spades, you could play poker, you could play solitaire, but you could play with other people, and the computer that you ran had to have a modem in it. And when my mom got the phone bill, she would have a heart attack because I didn't know. I was like, what? I don't know. I'm playing games. Oh. But it was like 7 cents a minute. I have no idea. And yeah, it was kind of like the internet, but through dial-up. You know, what was the sound that it would make? You know, you would hear the number. And then it would go. And it would connect. And say, welcome, you have mail. No, not that one. That's an AOL. But it was like that. There was no, this is way more advanced. And in 1978, oh my God. No, seriously. This is impressive because my dial-up modem was 1990s, maybe? Early 1990s? I don't know. But this is not easy to figure out. This is impressive. And to do it from your phone, it's interesting.
French people were playing computer games, doing online shopping, buying plane or train tickets, and reading the news on Minitel about a decade before the World Wide Web was being used worldwidely. The most
That's impressive.
profitable services, though, were the infamous messagerie roses, or pink messages. Surprisingly to the French government, but unsurprisingly to anyone with even a passing familiarity with French culture, French people looked at this extraordinary technology and asked, how can we be aggressively horny about this? And so came message rooms where men would go to chat with hot single women near them, who, according to reports, were more often than not just other dudes who were either paid by the chat service or were
You remember this? I remember these. You would call and it'd be like, "Hi, honey. My name is Candy. Now make sure that your parents allowed this because shit was like $10 a minute. It was crazy." And then you're right. It was probably a man half the time. Oh, with chatting. It was a man. With chat. See, I don't know if it's gonna work on the phone. If you want to try to be a man, good luck. Or try to be a woman when you're a man, good luck. But yeah, so you guys invented porn, basically. I wouldn't be surprised if France invented porn. Because, the French are horny as it is. I mean, you guys, I know, I heard about you guys. Horny French people. I know. And believe me, that's a good thing. So, I'm just saying. But anyway, this is how it started, huh? This is how it started.
them, who, according to reports, were more often than not
I really like floppy clown shoes. What are you wearing?
rooms where men would go to chat with hot single women near them, who, according to reports, were more often than not just other dudes who were either paid by the chat service or were bartering for more Minitel connection time. Soon, France was littered with billboards advertising services like 3615 ULLA or 3615 MAUD or 3615 CUM, which
CUM? What was that channel about?
before you try to get a community guideline strike on me, I'll have you know is the Latin word for with.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
Mine?
One particularly useful aspect of Minitel to these Pepe Le PewDiePies was that the billing was completely inclusive and non-itemized. You just got a bill each month from PTT for the total cost of your Minitel usage, anything from a train ticket to minutes in a chat room, but the bill didn't list what the charges were for. It was just a total number. This led to a ton of people using the Minitels at their offices to hang out in pink rooms trying to seduce some voluptuous username because their office wouldn't be able to figure out where the charges were coming from, which was just fine for the French government, seeing as PTT took a cut of all money made through Minitel. In 1997, PTT brought in 6 billion francs from Minitel charges. To put that in perspective, today, 6 billion francs could buy you nothing. At its peak in the late 90s, Minitel had around 25 million users, just under half the French population.
Wow.
So, predictably, France decided to trot out some old-fashioned colonialism, but using computer terminals instead of disease blankets. They launched versions of Minitel across the world, including in the US, where they named it 101 Online. But
yeah, I don't remember that.
you may be noticing that you're watching this video not on an adorable Minitel terminal using a Minitel network, but on an extremely cracked iPhone using your neighbor's internet connection. Why? Well, many attribute Minitel's ultimate failure to it being a highly centralized system where any news service had to be registered with and approved by PTT. The government middleman led to weird bureaucratic inefficiencies, like how, as a result of lobbying, French newspapers had priority for setting up Minitel services, meaning that some companies had to create fake newspapers just so they could make Minitel services. When the World Wide Web reached widespread adoption with its hip bad boy decentralized structure, the highly centralized Minitel began to be about as popular as an escargot without any sacre bleu. What's surprising, though, isn't that Minitel failed, it's how long it succeeded.
Yeah,
Developed in 1978, Minitel still had 10 million monthly connections in 2009, and it wasn't disconnected until 2012, impressively outliving other 1970s innovations like VHS, floppy disks, and the solo career of John Lennon.
Oh, man.
You know what else survived long past when skeptics thought it would? Nebula, a streaming service started by me and my other educationalist creator friends. Nebula is home not only to ad-free versions of
Yeah, you trying to throw in a sponsor commercial, aren't you?
Shy Brick Special, Wendover documentaries, Engineering has the Battle of Britain, and there are tons more. The best way to get access to the documentary streaming site home for the crazy low /H
All right, well, at least they put the commercial at the end of the video. That was smart.
AI.
Listen, I get it, man. Those computers back in the day, hilarious. Remember that? When your monitor weighed as much as a microwave? Remember that? Anyway, you were all impressed. You were like, hey, guess what? I just bought a computer. You're not going to believe this. You ready for this? The monitor has 16 colors. 16 colors. Remember that? And we were like, oh, color. Remember that? Remember that? Yeah, I know. All right. If you don't remember that, well, I'm not that old. I'm telling you what my grandfather told me, and that's how I know. Okay. Anyway, look, very, very impressive. I mean, really, we were nowhere near the internet in 1978. That wasn't even a thought, and you guys kind of had it figured out already. It's just the technology just never, I guess, improved enough where you guys could expand, make it faster, and I don't know, go from there. It sounds like this could have been huge. Well, it was huge. Half your country used it off a phone. Hey, at least it was a push phone and not a. You remember those phones? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Minitel. Very cool. I absolutely had no clue. Really, I had no idea about this. And I had no idea that in America it was 101 online. I never knew. No, I guess I was just too young. I didn't care. I didn't care about that stuff. I was out playing in the street, when kids did that, when the children went outside of the house and they played on the street. It was crazy. You throw a ball at each other. You wouldn't even believe it. Oh, crazy. The sun was out. The kids were looking at the sun. They were looking at clouds and trees. It's amazing. Good old days. You don't even know about it. Now this is it. They look at the tree on this. This is where they find a tree. Anyway, I'm impressed. I really am. That was cool. So voila, France's alternate internet that survived all the way to 2012. That's crazy. Less than 10 years, no, more than 10. 12 years ago, this thing was still going in France. That's impressive. I think we were playing like World of Warcraft 12 years ago. Blown away with 3D graphics and multi RPG games with endless, you could just walk forever. Yeah, and you guys were still on that, huh? That's pretty okay. Well, see, that's why it failed, because how could you compete with World of Warcraft online? You can't compete with that. Not with this. No, it would have been buffering. But please hold. Please wait. Yeah, y'all would have went nuts. Anyway, still very cool. Take care. Peace out. Have a good night. À la prochaine et bonsoir.